Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. This is the Ukrainian war front update, and as I always do, use the Ukrainian, not Ukrainian balls, but Ukrainian article and a Russian update, as long as the Russians are not slackers and update their little site. So on this time I have both of them ready to lie to us. So I'm gonna give you all the information from these liars and those liars, and you make whatever you make out of them. Their lies. The thing is, there are some other articles that I covered today regarding the war, and according to the Russians, they advance in Kupiansk, which is right in the far east. Far east, not Japan, but far east of Ukraine, and that is the hottest spot at this point. And in Bakhmut, the Ukrainians claim that they are advancing steadily around Bakhmut, not in Bakhmut. So let's start with the Ukrainian article, which is from today, the 18th of July 2023. Ukrinform. War update. Heavy battles ongoing on 5 directions of front. Heavy battles are ongoing in Kupiansk, Liman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka and Marinka directions. 18 combat engagements took place there during the day. Now these are the same that been yesterday and the day before. I can't do this, so let me show you this map. So this is the Russian update. Each color here has a different meaning. The blue ones are the Ukrainians shelling the Russian positions. This yellow stuff right here, the bullets, are Russians destroying Ukrainian drones or helicopters or airplanes. The black dots here are direct engagement of troops, and the red ones are the Russians shelling Ukrainian positions. So let's see where those are. The Kupiansk right here, and then Liman right here, and then Bakhmut right here, and then Avdiivka here and Marinka here. So this is where the front is, the 5 directions, heavy battles right here. So let's go back to the Ukrainians and start with them. I already started, but nevertheless. Here it is. Meanwhile, in Melitopol and Berdyansk directions, the defense forces of Ukraine continue to carry out an offensive operation, gain a foothold on the reached frontiers, inflicting fire damage from artillery, and carry out counter-battery fight. During the day, Ukrainian aviation launched 11 strikes on enemy personnel, weapons and military equipment clusters, and 3 more on its anti-aircraft missile systems. The Ukrainians start with a summary first, then they will go and talk about the north, what's going on over there, which is nothing, the border with Belarus, then northeast, and that's Sumy, and I was about to say Sumy and Kharkiv and the oblasts over there, and then they go down east, southeast, and south. Just so you know, when they're going to start talking about that, it's north. It's going to be Polisia and other areas. So it says here that Ukrainian defenders also destroyed 2 Russian reconnaissance drones of operational tactical level. Today, the Russian army launched a missile and airstrike on Ukraine. According to detailed information, the enemy used 6 caliber cruise missiles and 35 Iranian-made Shahed 136 combat drones. In addition, the invaders launched 70 strikes and 53 MLRS attacks on the positions of Ukrainian troops and populated settlements. Now, they start in the north. In Volyn and Polisia directions, the operational situation has not changed significantly. There were no signs of the formation of enemy offensive groups. But I made a video today where the Ukrainians reported 2 massive Wagner group columns, one of more than 90 pieces of equipment, and the other, which is trucks, pickup trucks, buses, and other. And the other one, the next column, had more than 100 pieces of equipment moving in. This is the 5th. So 5 columns of Wagner coming from Russia going south of Minsk in Belarus. So maybe pretty soon Policja and Volyn will have some action. The Russian Federation maintained its military presence in Zaporizhzhia and Slobozhanshchina directions. More than 20 settlements were hit with enemy mortar and artillery. That is in Kharkiv. So the Kharkiv is right here. The Russians call it Kharkiv. So this is actually where the Ukrainians are shelling, and the Russians will say that they killed all kind of civilians and attacked villages. Let's pick one, for instance. The government said that Ukrainian forces had fired 3 artillery shells at the outskirts of the village. All right, there were no casualties. Let's see here. There's a drone. They say the Russian air defense had shot down a Ukrainian drone over the city. There were no casualties or damage. So we know what's going on here. The Russians supposedly don't do anything here, just defend. And now the Ukrainians are going to move to this, and they're going to start going this with their update, east. Okay, in Kupiansk direction, we already figured that out, where that is, in the far east by Japan. Just kidding. The Ukrainian defenders firmly hold the defense. In the area of Kislivka, the Russian launched an airstrike and shelled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 settlements in Kharkiv region with artillery and mortars. Now if you go to the Russians, indeed, there's a lot of red stuff here, that means the Russians destroyed certain Ukrainian positions. Let's pick this one here. Russian forces destroyed an ammunition depot of Ukraine's 103rd Territorial Defense Brigade. Russian forces wiped out Ukrainian troops using air and artillery strikes. And again here, so that's this. Let's see it here. Drones. Russian air defenses shot down a Ukrainian drone. Here, another drone. Here, 2 drones. Here, drone, and drone, right? All right, we got that cleared. We go down to Liman direction. Liman is south of Kupiansk. Kupiansk is right here. And we go south to Liman, which is down here, right here. Here you have an engagement of troops. Let's see what the Russians are saying. The Central Battle Group successfully repelled an attack by Ukrainian troops using aviation as well as heavy flamethrower systems and artillery strikes. Russian forces thwarted the activity of a Ukrainian sabotage and reconnaissance group. And here, the Central Battle Group hammered Ukrainian troops using aviation as well as heavy flamethrower systems and artillery strikes. And we go to the Ukrainians, see what they say about Liman. In Liman direction, the invaders attacked the areas of Bilohorivka in Luhansk region, Spirnia and Siversk in Donetsk region, and 2 more here in Luhansk region. So they were hit with enemy's artillery. In Bakhmut direction, this is a little bit south of Liman. Under heavy Russian aircraft and artillery fire, the defense forces of Ukraine successfully repelled enemy attacks near Bogdanivka in Donetsk region. The Russian army launched airstrikes near Kurdimivka and 2 more settlements, 3 Bilahora and others in Donetsk region. More than 10 settlements, including Shasir Yar, we're going to show you where that is, in Donetsk region, came under enemy artillery fire. So I don't see any offensive operation or successful or advance from the Ukrainians, reported by Ukrainians themselves. So let's see what the Russians are saying. So down here, from, as I said, from Liman, we go to Bakhmut. The Russians call Bakhmut Artemovsk. Right, and we go to Artemovsk, which is even here, right here. This is Artemovsk. And we already said 2 drones here. Let's see what happened here. The Yug battle group successfully repelled all attacks by Ukrainian troops using air and artillery strikes. So the Russians report the Ukrainians attacked. Now let's see what, this is Shasor Yar that I mentioned. Here is Bakhmut. The city is still held by the Russians. The Ukrainians claim that they advance up and down, which they did, surrounding the city, but nothing is still flat here. So this is with these guys. And after this, we're going to move to Avdiivka, which is right here. This is bombardments, Ukrainian shelling Russian positions, which the Russians will claim that's the village or the city and casualties and all that. And here the black stuff here is direct engagements. Let's see what the Ukrainians are saying about Avdiivka. In Avdiivka direction, the Russian army launched an airstrike in the area of Avdiivka and fired artillery at more than 10 settlements in Donetsk region. That's it. And we go in Marinka direction, which is south of Avdiivka. The defense forces continue to hold back the advance of Russian troops near Marinka and Krasnohorivka in Donetsk region. More than 10 settlements were hit. So let's go to the Russians. So let's see what the Russians say here. The Yug-Bela group, this is Avdiivka. The Yug-Bela group successfully repelled all attacks by Ukrainian troops using air and artillery strikes. We move towards Marinka. The Yug-Bela group successfully repelled all attacks by Ukrainian troops using air and artillery strikes. They destroyed an ammunition depot of Ukraine's 79th Air Assault Brigade. And now we move to Marinka right here. The Yug-Bela group successfully repelled all attacks by Ukrainian troops using air and artillery strikes. Let's do this one. Ukrainian forces fired 6 155mm shells at the village. So, makes sense. And this is probably the Russians destroying something in Ukraine. The Yug-Bela group hammered concentrations of Ukrainian troops and military equipment. Yeah, so, the Russians now say the Ukrainians kill civilians, and when you read articles coming from Ukraine, the Russians are killing civilians. So we're going to move here to Vuhledar, and we'll go to Shakhtarsk. So let's go and see. In Shakhtarsk direction, Russian invaders made unsuccessful attempts to restore their lost positions in the Zaporizhzhia region, Donetsk region and Zaporizhzhia region. The Russians launched airstrikes in the areas in Donetsk region. More than 10 settlements came under fire, enemy fire in this direction, including Vuhledar and 2 more in Donetsk region. So there is, you're talking about this area. So let's see what, this is Vuhledar. The Russians call it Ugledar. The Vostok-Bela group successfully repelled an attack by Ukrainian troops using air and artillery strikes. So the Ukrainians are in the offensive here. And here, the same thing. And here, Ukraine forces fired 6 152mm shells at the village. And from here we enter Zaporizhzhia. This is Zaporizhzhia Oblast. So let me show you on the big map. This is Zaporizhzhia right here. Supposedly this is the 5 directions or axis where the war occurs, and here, according to Russians, from other articles, the Ukraine and from the Ukrainians, they are somehow advancing here, or the counteroffensive is steady and all that. Let's go and see what the Ukrainians are saying. In Zaporizhzhia and Kherson regions or directions, the Russian troops focused their main efforts on preventing the further advance of the Ukrainian troops. The invaders hit the districts of in Zaporizhzhia. More than 20 settlements were hit with enemy artillery in Donetsk region, Zaporizhzhia region, Kherson, Dnipropetrovsk region, Kherson region, and in Mykolaiv region. So, if you remember if you watch the video I made today, the Russians hit Odessa here and Nikolaev with 6 caliber cruise missiles, destroying, according to them, some terrorists and some, let's see what they say actually. Russian forces destroy a Ukrainian fuel depot, about 70,000 tons, they say, I think, of, I think when I said tons, I can't remember the exact, it was 70,000, but I can't remember. It's not liters or gallons. So I'm not going to say anymore. In Nikolaev, Russian forces destroyed the Ukrainian fuel depot, the same thing. Here, Russian air defense shot down a Ukrainian drone. Now, here is Kherson, and this is Zaporizhzhia. This is where supposedly the Ukrainians are advancing, really advancing. Here, let's see, drone down. So Russians downed 2 drones. 2 drones, again, 1 drone, and what's here? 1 drone. And the Russians did, Russian forces hammered concentrations of Ukrainian troops and military equipment. They destroyed a Ukrainian ammunition depot. And here, Ukrainian troops and military equipment destroyed by the Russians. And here, emergency services reported shelling. Shells hit were recording in various parts of the city. Again, cities. I'm not going to read these guys, the blue stuff, because I'm going to tell you what 99% of the time we find. Ukrainians are destroying villages, cities, and civilians and infrastructure, which, as I said, the Ukrainians say the same thing about the Russians. Let's see what's here. Units of the Dnieper battle group thwarted an attempt by Ukrainian troops to cross the Dnieper River. They destroyed 3 boats and 20 Ukrainian soldiers. So 3 boats here. Let's see here, a drone. Those are 28 drones or something. 17 drones now. Russia's Ministry of Defense said that Ukrainian forces had tried to attack the city with drones. Russian air defense shot down 17 Ukrainian drones, and suppressed another 11, yes, it was 28, with electronic warfare systems. There were no casualties or damage. I covered this in one of the videos this morning. So this concludes the update from both liars. But hey, pens on fires, what can we do? They are the ones that are going to report. Others, who are they? How are they going to be able to find what's going on if they're not going to read the military reports coming from the Russians or from the Ukrainians? You can find details, but eventually you're going to get a source from the same guys, which is the military. And the military, they're going to make sure that give you the right information. Why? Because that gets dispersed around the world, distributed. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.